Heyo, Broyles here, and we are going to talk about abstract photography today. So using Photoshop, I'll do this again in Photopea for those of you guys that don't have Photoshop. But for today, this is done in Photoshop. And hello. So abstract photography, you're really concerned with lines, shapes, colors, textures, and kind of what you can make and alter reality to make a nice composition that is the way that you want it. So I had a couple options for some photos here. I was kind of looking at these. When you're looking at photos, you want to think about how how could I use this as an abstract piece? Like I could focus down on maybe this space in here or just the reflection down here and work on abstracting that piece of it rather than looking at this whole thing. This whole thing would be more of a landscape. But we're going to look to abstract it as just an abstract piece. So this is what I ended up with. Let's see how I did that. So I started with this image. It's from a Japanese garden. And I was kind of intrigued about this reflection and seeing what's going to happen over here. So I'm just going to file open. I opened my image, right? I'm going to go to the crop tool. Okay. And then I'm going to crop this down. And I am going to think about the what's around here, whether I want it to be kind of a square composition. I'm kind of intrigued about this circle here, but I want to give it enough space on the edges. So I'll probably go with something like this. Click enter, lock in that crop. If you ever want to go back because it wasn't the right one, go back and start again. And you felt it wasn't quite big enough. So I'm going to go about here, but I don't want that sign in it. Okay. So I'll go back here. I want it in the center. Notice I can move this around. I'm kind of looking at the middle hole here because I think that could be something interesting to do. All right, so I've cropped my image. Let's just go with our basic 3, and instead of trying to make this look like reality, we're going to use the basic 3 to start abstracting. So we always do levels first. Oh, sorry, my bad. We will always duplicate the first layer just in case we do anything destructive. We've got that background all by itself, just waiting to be fixed again. That sign is bugging me. I'm going to crop that out, which means I'm going to crop out the bottom a little bit more too. Okay. I'll quit obsessing over it. There we go. Okay. Now the sign's gone. So I'm going to go with levels. So levels, curves, vibrance. Those are our main things. But usually, like if I looked at this histogram, this map of the hiking trail, it looks like it's a well-composed picture. I wouldn't need to move any of these sliders or hikers, but because I'm abstracting this, by abstracting, I can like really control some of the mood. Like you add a little bit more darkness, a little bit more shadows to it. It's going to get moodier. You can move the gray. You can desaturate it. That's making it a little bit more like English garden, Monet, which could be a way that I go with this. I do like the details in these rocks and stone, so I don't want to like blow out all my whites because that makes it a little bit harder to pull out some colors. So I want to keep some of the textures. Remember, we're talking about lines, textures, colors. So I can kind of play with it here. I'm going to actually make it a little bit darker. I can always come back, click on this part of the layer and open this adjustment layer back up. I'm going to go back up to adjustments. Next thing I'm going to do is curves. So in the past, close color so I can see it more. In the past, we do just a simple like S curve to make it look like more like reality. This time we can move the curves any way we want. We can put as many dots. When you start inverting these colors and making this graph go up and down, you get like a really nice kind of rainbowy effect. You can move these sliders in, which says I'm going to take out some of this information. I'm going to move the blacks in. This is almost like darkening your shadows a little bit, adding more contrast. But then as I come through here, I can start inverting some of these colors. I think this needs to go down more. There we go. Because I kind of want this nice, almost oil slick effect from my curves. So levels, curves. Next thing I'm going to skip over vibrance for just a minute, and I'm going to go to hue saturation. So hue means color. Okay, so this is going to allow me to saturate, which is what I kind of can do with vibrance, but I'm going to saturate my colors. So pour some of that paint on there because I really want to talk about color. And then I can use the slider and I can change the color scheme. So whatever, it's like a color filter that's going through and then affecting all the other colors. If I wanted to colorize the whole thing, I would click colorize and I would move the slider to what color filter I would want on everything, which is nice. But for this abstraction, I'm going to uncheck colorize because I want to keep all the different various colors. I'm going to go with like a bluish color scheme here, kind of more purpley blue. There we go. So I got my hue saturation. I saturated the color. I can play with the lightness. This is the lightness and the darkness. It just kind of, sometimes it flattens things out, but if that's what you want, I can darken things. It's going to make it look a little bit flatter. So you don't want to move that too much because you want to keep the contrast in there, but you can kind of move how light the colors are that you're going to put in there. So then I'm going to pop over our tried and true vibrance. So this is saturation again. I'm going to saturate a little bit more. I'm going to add some vibrance to my colors as well because I want these to be really colorful. I want these colors to pop. Right, I'm liking this contrast between these lines here, these horizontal lines here, and that little kind of darkness. I like how that's popping out a lot. Oops, I'm on the crop tool still. I'm going to get off of that. All right, so from here, I can then start adapting this even a little bit more. One thing I can do is I want to just flip this upside down. So I'm going to go up to image rotation, and I'm actually going to flip the canvas vertically. So I just want to flip that upside down so that I can change how you look at it. So now it's all this reflection on top. You're not even thinking about these as trees anymore. This is just a texture down here. So I could be done with it, but there's more that I can do with this. Okay. Those are just kind of like the basic things I can do. Looking at these different ways that I can use the adjustment layers, there is an invert layer. So I could invert the whole thing, which is going to flip the color to the complementary color. When I'm using things like invert, so there's a couple ways I can do this. Say I only want to invert like maybe this middle section here. I can go and I can select this middle section right here. So I can select that section. It's not the best selection, but I could go and then if I have any dancing ants or a selection, when I click on an adjustment layer, it's going to adjust just that section. And you can see over here, I've got my adjustment layer, but I also have what this is over here. This is a layer mask. Okay, so what this is showing me is that everything is black, which is blocking the mask from hitting the paper. And then where it's white, that's where the actual adjustment layer is going to go through. I can go ahead and I can actually paint on this as well. So I could go and grab the paintbrush. Notice I have white in my foreground. As I come in here, I have a different brush picked, but let's just see. It's kind of a neat effect. I was using it on a different layer, but put some water droplets on there. I could go and grab, so I'm going to click the brush folder, which opens up my brushes over here. Right now, I'm going to go with like a soft I don't want that hard edge on what I want to do. So I want a soft fuzzy brush. And then as I come over here to make the brush bigger and smaller, I can use the bracket keys above the enter key or the return key on my keyboard to make the brush bigger and smaller. And then I can come through here. Again, I'm still painting white. You want to check your settings just in case your opacity is not up to 100%, flow is not up to 100%. And then I can come in here and I can paint the edges of that circle a little bit so that, ooh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I paint it a little bit more. I get a little bit of that shadow in there. That's kind of cool looking. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Kind of build that out. Build that out. Ooh, ooh, oh. So, and then that's kind of a cool, I like how it's getting like a little of the other, almost like a butterfly effect. I don't like that last one. I'll do this one. Make that bigger and then connect it over here. Thinking a little bit about symmetry. Maybe I'll connect that over there. So I could build more off of that, but that's pretty cool looking. And look at my layer mask over here. So you can see a lot of different white things on here. So another way to think about this is I could go and I'm going to go photo filter. Photo filter will give you like a different type of filter over the whole thing. It's kind of like hue saturation, but like on a transparent level. So I might pick a deep emerald. No, let's go with like a warming filter, something warm. But I don't want this on everything. I like kind of what it's doing down here. So I'm going to go to the mask. Notice this is the adjustment layer. This is the mask. I can just grab a gradient and I can make it, I want it black to clear. Okay. I'm on a linear gradient, 100% opacity. I can click and drag. Oh, I'm on classic gradient. That helps as well. Regular gradient would work. Maybe, but classic gradient I know works. So when I do a photo filter, okay, it is only allowing that gradient to affect the bottom portion, not the top. So I'm blocking off the top, but that gradient is giving me a nice feathered edge over to the bottom. This is another way of doing kind of like if I want to darken the outsides, I can add, there's other ways of doing this as well, but I can add a levels layer, right? I can go to classic gradient. I'm on the gradient tool, make it a radial gradient. This time I'm going to click and drag. I haven't moved anything yet, but I can really darken. I should have done this first. But I have a really, really dark levels here. And I can click, and the more I add to this circle, this is blocking. It's really only darkening my corners, which is really highlighting that little orb thing I've got growing in the middle now. That's pretty cool. What else did I do on the other one? So hue saturation, I showed you that. Photo filter, curves, invert. Yeah. Trim. Yeah, I showed you all that. So you can play with these filters. A threshold kind of makes things look like they're black and white. I think I use this instead of levels on the last one I did. But it is kind of neat because it just pulls out the black. You do have this opacity slider here. So even on these adjustment layers, I could go and say, I like that. I want to darken kind of everything up with that threshold. That's just popping those blacks darker in a different way. Maybe I like that look, but it's dulling out my colors, so I'm not going to use it. If I don't want it, I can just turn the eyeball off or click on the layer, click delete on my keyboard, and it'll go away. I like this kind of firefly effect that was made from using this paintbrush. That is kind of a speckledy brush. And then I just kind of clicked it once as I was going through. Remember, the bracket keys are going to make it pop. And I was just painting on the mask rather than painting on the actual document. So these are all adjustment layers. I can always go back and alter them, turn them off, see what's going on with what I did with them. Ooh, if I like that better, I don't know. And then, because things, ooh, no, I kind of like what I've got going on. So compared to where we started, this is definitely an abstraction of the document. Be careful when you save. If you notice, this is called jp0108.jpg. When I go to save this file, save as, I'm going to save it to the cloud. Save to cloud. It's sometimes nice to keep that original file name in there, but I'm going to call this abstract1. I like to add 2324 because I do a lot of these. And then I keep the file name in there. Notice no punctuation, blah, blah, blah. So save that as your abstract. Go to File, Export, quick export as PNG to be able to export that. I keep them in my documents. Save that so that that could be one of the ones that you turn in. And you might do more of these, but we're going to turn in at least 7 of them. We're going to do different techniques, but this is just one thing that you can start playing with. This is really a fun way to get to know adjustment layers in Photoshop.